No, I was walking here, and like I choked on something and started coughing like crazy. Oh my god! That's what it is. Someone had their voodoo doll, and so no, I just like so I ran him office because I was looking for a cough drop or something. But, yeah, but I couldn't find one, and so now I'm just chugging mints, and I've got every form of liquid. Does anybody have like a cough drop? Anybody? I knew it. I knew someone would have one. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Do I need to mic up and do anything?
Yeah, mic up.
Which one?
2 mics, so
2 mics.
double mic.
Okay. Okay, so that's this one. Is this on? Ready? Is this on? Is it on already? It is? Oh. Okay, there's that one. So, what flavor are these cough drops? That's what I really need to know. Cherry? Ooh. Nice.
Are they menthol too?
How about Danistro? Oh my goodness, yes.
Already?
Yes, yes, yes. So Dolores, I brought the orange backpack back. Just brought it out of retirement. So exactly. So we good? So okay, we'll give people just a few more minutes to everyone still it's like a college class. Everyone sits towards the back or towards everyone's like in the But we're good. We're well socially distanced. You're over there on the edge. So we're very cool. I'll be right back. Everyone look at me real quick. So what? Shh. I always like the U of H logo. Their motto should be Mr. Beast. I did. There we go. We're good. All right. So anybody else? How many of you are of the lemon cough drop preference?
I like lemon.
There's something soothing about lemon. Anybody else? No lemons? Okay. How many of you prefer the cherry? Okay. Or does strawberry, are cherry and strawberry kind of in the same camp? No. Okay. How many of you are strawberry? Okay. Can I tell you, just between you and me, the best, what? What? No, they're not the same. No. So no, the best cough drops I ever had, and this was terrible when they stopped making them. I still look for them, and I can't find them. For a while, they're Halls. What? No. Halls is good. Okay, so anybody have try to guess? So anyone have like a bizarre cough drop flavor that you really like an atypical, not lemon or cherry or strawberry? What? No, you really? Yeah, that's terrible. Okay. That's what they punish. That's like a cough drop they give people in Russia or something, right? Like it's the price of communism or something. Cherry licorice cough drops. You probably also like the black licorice, like candy and stuff. Oh my goodness.
You just haven't matured yet.
Oh, that's what I've been told. Yeah, I hope I never do. I actually had, when I lived in California, I had a weed out in front of my house, and someone said there was a licorice plant, and sure enough, cracked it open, and the oil in it smelled like black licorice. Okay, now, we'll come back to the cough drop thing, but I did take this one tangent real quick because you brought up the licorice. Twizzlers or red vines? What? What? No, I know what you said, but I'm like, what? So, no, how many of you don't even know what red vines are? They're the superior form. Okay, there are Twizzlers, and Twizzlers are okay until you've had red vines. Red vines are infinitely superior, like crazy good. So they sell them at the store. How many of you know what I'm talking about? How many of you prefer red vines? See, thank you. Red vines are, go to the store and you'll see them next to, because once you've had red vines, Twizzlers feel waxy and, I don't know, don't like them. So back to cough drops. I say this as a shameless plug to if you happen to stumble across these flavors, which you won't because they don't exist anymore, to my great dissatisfaction. There was a time when Halls had a partnership with Canada Dry. Ginger ale flavored cough drops. And I think they're out of business because I ate them all. I bought 10 bags. I was eating them as candy. That's my favorite. Hey, can we stop by the store and get some more cough drops? I'm out of candy. So it's so good. So, but some of y'all smirk, like that doesn't sound good to y'all? But ginger calms your stomach, right? No one drinks ginger ale. How many of you don't drink ginger ale at all until you get on an airplane? Right? Yeah, it's like, all of a sudden it's like magic sky juice, right? Like, what is ginger? Oh yeah, I think for the while there, I think Canada Dry, or as they call it in Canada, they just call it dry. And they just stayed in business by they're probably struggling now. I bet this is strawberry, right?
No, it's orange.
I'm guessing the flavor because it's pink. I like strawberry.
Okay, see what's this.
What snack did your wife only give you a couple of?
What?
At my house.
See, I try to.
You left it vague.
I left it vague on purpose.
I know.
So it was probably a form of M&M, like the higher order of M&Ms, like peanut M&Ms or caramel M&Ms, something like that. So something. What? Yeah, the upper echelon of stuff. Yeah, exactly right. So I do remember those stories. That's the story that people always remember. Like years ago when I guess it was earlier this spring when I was talking about the time my daughter discovered us out on the patio eating dessert, and she walked out and she's like, "Is that dessert? Did I get dessert?" That was my wife's favorite dessert of all time, which is those little drumstick ice cream cone things. Way to my wife's heart. So that, French fries, those little ice cream drumsticks, and wedding cake. My wife is not a night owl, but we've stayed at weddings a long time. I remember a time we had driven to this one wedding. We were there mainly to be with family, and all the family got home, and we're like, "Babe, it's late, let's just go." No, they're cutting the cake. We're gonna cut the cake. No matter what I do, when I perform a wedding, she can go with me. If I bring her home a slice of not just cake, wedding cake. So, but it's one of those weird things though. Any cake can be a wedding cake, so why does wedding cake have a distinct flavor? It's kind of like birthday cake. You can have any kind of cake for your birthday, so why is birthday cake a flavor? Right? You can buy birthday cake flavored stuff, but any cake can be birthday. It's just cake flavored. So, strawberry, it's really good. So anybody else have any wonderful, insightful comments about candy or licorice? The step too far for go get some red vine. Have you?
Eating a crayon.
What?
It's like eating a crayon.
You say that if it's a bad thing, right? Like crayons are good. Well, Twizzlers like eating a candle. So
We have a new person.
oh, hello. Not new. So she's sitting here by you though. So
Front row new.
now crayon brings up an interesting statement. How many of you say crayon? How many of you say it differently than that? How many of you say like it's a crown?
No.
How many colors?
Crayons.
Crayons. Okay, crayons. So how many say crayon? How many say crowns or crayons?
Crowns is from Florida.
Uh-huh.
The Midwest is crayons.
How many of you grew up calling them colors? So I grew up calling them colors. Okay, where are my colors? I remember getting made fun. I had to learn crayons. Like there's all these weird things. Linguistically, it's a fascinating thing. I remember I took this linguistics quiz one time, and it pegged your accent based on what you called things. and it based on primary and secondary thing, and it pegged me pretty good. It got the place where I grew up when I was a little kid, and the place my mom grew up. So I went to elementary school in San Antonio, and my mom is from around Jackson, Mississippi, and so there's things about my vocabulary like I grew up calling them colors, right? Because all these things are regionally defined. Like there's one word that you can be pegged as from Houston, Texas, if you use this one word for something.
Feeder.
Feeder. Yep. If you call those roads next to the highway a feeder, you are from Houston, Texas. Only place in America. Access road, frontage road. California, they don't even have them, right? They're just highways. And there's. I remember when I moved out to California, I was used to be able to drive along the access road to get stuff. So, also, what do you call the thing on a playground that goes back and forth? Teeter-totter, seesaw. There's a region in America where it's called a teeter board. Okay. What do you call it? Firefly or lightning bug? Right. Regionally defined. Garbage can versus trash can. We're in a trash can kind of. We're technically in the trash can zone. My son. My son loves trash trucks, right? If you ever see my wife pushing the stroller and my older son is riding on it, if I need him to ride on the thing, he just run on. I'm like, Asa, come on, ride like a trash truck, and he'll just jump up on that thing, and he'll make the sound of the hydraulic piston. He'll go, tss, like he'll put his foot up, tss, because that's the sound. Mondays and Thursdays our trash comes. It's crazy. We hear the trash truck coming, and we have to go grab him and get him out front. And he's sitting in his bed when he was still in his crib. It was like a kid on Christmas. He's just running back and forth. Let me out, let's go. He loves watching the trash truck. But he learned this week, that people call them garbage trucks. He was like, Dad, you know you can also call a trash truck a garbage truck? Like, yeah, you can. I didn't. Expand your horizon. So, pretty amazing stuff. What's another one? Soda. Now, I feel very strongly about this one. So, soda versus pop and Coke. We're in Coke zone, right? What kind of Coke do you want? I want Dr. Pepper, right? So give me a Coke. So we're in Coke zone. I will accept soda, but how many of you are from pop country? What's that? Soda pop. Now, one of the weird infiltrations of Texas that I kind of fight the power against, right? Like In-N-Out Burger, that's just California Whataburger, right? And we have the real thing. Why would we need the distortion? But so she denies it. But Valero, which is from San Antonio, bought up Circle K, which is from California. And when you go get a soda at the gas station, it has the Circle K brand of like their cup, right? And it says Polar Pop on it. Like, pop? Not in Texas. We're in Texas, okay? I can't believe we allow this monstrosity. But I've told you like the bizarre thing. My folks, for a while, lived in Missouri. And have I ever told you what they call carbonated beverages in Missouri? Anybody? It's the most bizarre thing ever. I don't even know. Nope. Sody. Sody. And what's even weirder, I think this is when I realized, like, okay, I guess soda became sody. I guess that's weird, but okay. What they call Sprite, clear beverages, right? Like Sprite, Sierra Mist, things like that. What do they call it? White sody. White. I remember the first time I was at one of the things with my family, and like we had some people, why don't you give me some of that white sody? I'm like, you mean like milk? I'm like, white? No, this is translucent, right? It's not white. It's clear. You can see through it. It bugs me no end, but I feel like there's a safe space. I feel like I can share this with you. What? Root. How many of you say root versus? How many say route?
No, it's root beer.
No, like route, like Route 66. It's I say root. Roof versus rough. People up the north say rough. Oh, how many say coupons? Coupon. I say coupon. Lawyer or lawyer? How many of you are a lawyer? Lawyer? Lawyer sounds like you're in Savannah, Georgia, right? Like, I'm going to go see my lawyer. What? No, don't fight. Now, there's one way to say this. I will kick anybody else out of this room, right? Caramel? Caramel. Caramel is terrible. Caramel. I will broach no controversy about this or argument. Caramel. And pecan is even worse, right? Like if you, we can maybe get along if you say caramel or caramel, just, But if you say pecan, I will throat punch you, right? So, what? Pecan. So, we call that a bathroom here, okay? So no, thank you. But the other one is, the other favorite one that's regionally defined very specifically to New England, and specifically Rhode Island, is what they call water fountains. Bubbla. It's either bubbla, like the sort of South Boston, Rhode Island area, it's either bubbla or it's a very specific part of Rhode Island where it's a water bubbla. Go get a drink from the water bubbla. I go, oh, okay. Bubbler, water bubbler.
Oh, Peabody, up north, in northeast, they were calling it Peabody.
A what?
Peabody.
Peabody?
Peabody, Massachusetts.
Peabody. Okay, so I can see the Peabody become Peabody. How weird.
I know.
See?
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, anybody have any random other facts like this like to share with the group? All from we start with cough drops. I had something else I wanted to. We're going to talk about the Astros, but no, I need a cough drop. I need the menthol to kick in. So anyway, but how about those Astros, huh? It was sad to see Marwin Gonzalez lose, right? I like Marwin Gonzalez, but was it now this series shouldn't count, but now the Twins have the longest consecutive playoff losing streak. They haven't won a game in 18. It was 18. That's crazy. It's not like they haven't won a series. They haven't won a game in 18 games. So that's crazy. So anyway, so anybody else have any wonderful things we need to talk about? What? Oh my goodness. I just sat outside most of today, right? So it's so good. And I realized, so I have some friends from up north, that the fall for people up north is kind of like how I feel about the spring. Every beautiful spring day is a little bit hard for me to suffer through, to enjoy, because I know this is just the foretaste of it just getting crazy hot. People in the north, so I'm outside going, I am at the farthest possible time till it being like crazy hot again. But they're going, another month and it's going to be below zero. Another 2 months it's going to be below, you know. But it's like, yeah, I realize, that's how I feel about spring. The moment it's a beautiful day, I'm like, this is so nice. In a month it'll be 153 degrees outside. So, but anyway.
Thank God for air conditioning.
Oh, exactly right. Lords of AC, wrap me in your icy kisses. So, woohoo! My wife, look at this. She brought me beverages. Hey, Asa.
Look at
Here,
this.
look at this, curb service. Thank you.
That might look better.
What? So someone had a cough drop.
I told you.
Huh? Oh. Asa Base, how you doing, man? How you doing, man?
Doing?
Did you show them your?
Stay with me. You can stay with me.
Did you show them? You show them your dinosaurs on your shirt?
What's on that shirt? Tell us what it is.
Daddy, what is that dinosaur called?
That's a Ceratosaurus. I've never heard of that one before. There you go. Hey, go ride like a trash truck. Go.
He is adorable. Goodbye, Mom.
See, he gets right. Okay. So, anyway, yes. Well, let's open up in prayer and then we'll dive into our study. Father, I thank you for your word. I thank you for the fact that you don't leave us alone in our rebellion or even in our isolation. You don't leave things out on our own. You desire us to use our brain and to use our heart and to seek you with all of it. but you also are a God who speaks. You're a God who comes to us. You're a God who bridges the gap and who makes himself known. Father, help us to desire to know you more. As we open your word, may you open our hearts. May you speak the truth of who you are into our lives now in the specific way that we need to hear it tonight. Help us to come away different because we were here together in this place studying your word. I pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen. All right. So we are studying First Corinthians right now. I'll take my pen out real quick. And the title of the study, I gave Soren only a portion of the title last week. One Spirit, one body, one Lord. Three things. One Spirit, one body, one Lord. Whole idea behind this is he writes this series to give us unity, to encourage us towards unity, because people are prone to division. All of us naturally devolve and find the lowest common denominator for places. Now, some of you have asked, we've had a little problem with the bridge groups. If you joined this class on the bridge so you can get the emails, I think that class went away and they just created a new one. Okay, so you might have to go back and re-log onto it. And it might just be because they're trying to create the North Katy campus within the bridge as part of Kingsland, but it's complicated, and so we've had some hiccups. So if you want to receive the emails I send out, I haven't sent out one yet because it's still kind of wonky. Go back to like Wednesday night, go to Kingsland, then Wednesday night, and then register for this class, and you'll be a part of it. Also, people have asked where these are recorded. I don't know what happened, but we switched our software, not the company, and not the place where it's saved, but like I don't know, the links changed, and so the place that had all of the previous studies where they were recorded, not there anymore. So we're still trying to find them, but this class is there. Like the last 3 weeks have been recorded video, and they're trying to get the audio up to the podcast if that's the format some people listen to when they drive in. But like someone reminded me that they created that vanity site for me, kingsland.org/Steve Jones, and that'll take you to. Right now, it's just the last 3 studies. But if you're looking to review so you can study for the test, you just go there. All right. Any questions or comments on that?
You grade on a curve?
I do, because I throw out no one ever really passes my tests, and so I always grade up. But you should be careful of the Soren's the dead weight. Like he always anchors the bottom of the curve, and it's just.
I'm bribery. I got beat out by the Rolos right away. But.
Exactly right. Yeah. Never doubt what bribery can do. Okay, I can be bribed. So when my students would ask if they could bribe me, I was like, yeah. You have to realize though that if I accept this bribe and I get caught, I could lose my job. And so how much you have to do to bribe me is you have to give me at least 20 years of my annual salary. Because I got to live on this, right? Because I might not be able to get another job. So you got to hook me up. You hook me up, we'll talk, okay? But until then, I am open for business. So 1 Corinthians. The problem in Corinth was the problem of every church that struggles in America like this. It was culturally diverse, economically diverse. There's all these things going on. People naturally devolve to their lowest common denominator, and we go seek things that make us places that make us most comfortable. The problem is the church isn't supposed to be a place of comfort. The church is supposed to be a place where you're both like the people enough in a way to where you feel at home, but different enough to where you can be stretched and grown up. One of the things we talked about initially, beginning is in America. Initially, a lot of the denominations were all kind of regionally defined or ethnic group defined groups of like Lutherans, predominantly German, or EV free was Swedish evangelical free. Even among Catholics in America, there were various kinds of Catholics, right? Were you Hispanic Catholic, or were you Irish Catholic, or were you German Catholic? There's a wonderful. If you ever go to San Antonio and go to the Riverwalk, right next to the Riverwalk, there is a church. You know the River Center Mall? If I had Google Maps, I'd show it to you. In River Center Mall, it's really cool. There is a church that the mall is built around, because it's actually it was the German Catholic Church. It was built in like the 1880s when a lot of the Germans were immigrating to Texas. And remember the store Joski's? Well, they called that church St. Joski's because the Joski's was on the corner next to it, but they had to build around like the church on 3 sides. Because in San Antonio, there was a large Catholic community, but there were even 3 kinds of Catholic churches: German, Irish, Hispanic. So, and then there was Italian on the East Coast, right? There's different waves of, we all sort of devolve into that. And what's happened in America, a lot of people point to, try to figure out what's wrong with America and what's wrong with our cultural discourse and things like that. But most people don't realize that America is one of the few countries on earth that is not composed of just a single demographic, right? We're a radical hodgepodge of multiple ethnicities, and that's always been a recipe for conflict. When people who don't see the world differently or come from the same background, when they meet, they rub each other the wrong way. And we either fight or we take our ball and go home. And the church was always supposed to be a place where those distinctions stopped mattering, where they fell into the background. But as always happened, we all fall to our sin nature. And in Corinth, in America, they were divided probably by race, Greeks and Jews, or even probably Jews and Greeks and Romans and all the other ethnicities of the Roman Empire, divided socioeconomically. There was rich churches and poor churches. There was probably a language barrier. And they all started thinking that they had the right way and everyone else had the wrong way. And so Paul writes this letter to get them all on the same page. Realize, look, you are part of one body, right? You are called in one spirit. You have one Lord. And so try to realize that's ultimately what's important. That one of the central messages of the gospel is when we try to organize ourselves by the way the world tells us to or by worldly categories, we always fall into heartache and despair and frustration, and we import all the problems the world has into the church. And so he talks about this. And so we're going to look today, he's going to keep, in the next chapter or so, next couple weeks, he's going to dive into the more complicated, like specific, pragmatic things he wants to change. But right now he's still talking about identity. And that's one of those things that I've been sort of talking about the last couple of weeks with you, trying to get you to realize or get us all to consider, what do we consider our primary identity? One of the chief problems with Christianity is that in America, there's so many times we consider it a hobby because we live in a secular society and the politics becomes the religion for most people, the place that most people look for salvation or for meaning or for whatever, that most people treat religion like it's something individual people do with their spare time, right? Rather than something that is supposed to affect every day of your life. Like you can believe what you want at home, but when you come into public, that's not supposed to change things. Like, no, that's exactly what it's supposed to change. Because we put us on the same level as college football or barbecue, right? It's my hobby. And Paul's like, no, you need to realize that this needs to be your primary identifier. And part of it goes to unmasking what you think your primary identifier is and what you have your identity wrapped up in. And here's one of the ways I've thought about it. And I had to face this just recently in my own life, just a little bit. What is that thing about you that if you lost it, you wouldn't know who you were anymore? What is that thing about you that if you lost it, you would have no idea who you were anymore? Or it would disorient you something. I raise this up because many of you know that this time last year, roughly, I left being a college professor behind and started focusing full-time being at Kingsland. And I'd always consider myself sort of a pastor and a professor. I'd always sort of be willing to do both of those things. I didn't realize how much of my identity I had wrapped up in being the professor. And when I wasn't one anymore, it was not just a change in job. It was a loss of a chunk of who I thought I was. Well, then who am I? Who am I now? And you realize, okay, what if I wasn't? I remember when I moved out to California to be a college young adults pastor, I liked being the Texan in everybody else's eyes, right? Like it was fun to be. Like I'm not very much of a Texan here, right? Boots don't fit my feet, and I got a big old head, so cowboy hats look terrible on me. I do look good in mother of pearl snaps, and so and those yoke collar. By the way, origin of mother of pearl snaps, anybody know? Why they're? It's so that when you're riding through the brush and you're looking for cows and your shirt gets snagged on a branch, it won't rip the shirt. It'll just pop the shirt off, open, revealing your manly muscles underneath. So, but that's where the origin of mother of pearl snaps. But think about it for a second, though. How much we wrap our identity up in these sorts of things. What are some things like that we wrap our identity around? Work, yes. Why do people have a hard time when they retire? Because who I am is my work. And trying to tell somebody, you are not your job, right? You're not your job. That is a part of you, and it's a vocation, and it can be a meaningful contribution you make, but that's not who you are. What's something else?
Parenthood.
Yes, empty nesters, when children leave or whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, I don't know who I am anymore. Why do marriages frequently hit a roadblock when you empty nester right now? I don't know who I am anymore. What else? Yes. Yes. It'd be fun. Like, I look back at American history, Bull Moose Party, the Whigs. I just want, like, I know America's set up with the two-party system. That's the way our government is built. But we don't realize that the two parties have changed frequently. And we just think that Democrats and Republicans is all we got. We just need to have a third party that's going to replace one of these two parties, maybe, but we just have two new parties, right? But most people wouldn't know what to do with themselves if all of a sudden they couldn't call themselves Democrat or Republican, right? How about this? This messes with people's minds some. I have friends of mine who are in politics. I've done enough reading in cultural history to realize conservative and liberal are sliding scales. Conservative means you think there are things about society that are worth holding on to, and liberal means you think things need to be loosened up a little bit. If I lived in England in the 18th century, I would have been a liberal. Why? Because I don't believe that guy over there, Lord Autumnbottom over there, is a better man than me. I don't think he deserves more rights than me. I think I deserve rights. Right? I think so it's weird. American culture in general is more liberal than England because we don't have a king. Right? And so it's a sliding scale. Anyway, that makes people uncomfortable to say, right? Because we define ourselves. It reveals how much we kind of think about our politics as our. What are some things we wrap our identity around? Age. What? Age. Yeah. Sometimes it's hard when people grapple with the fact that people get older, right? People are like, what do I do when I'm not a college student anymore, not a young adult anymore? At what point do I feel comfortable dropping the young from young adult, or when do I feel comfortable? When do I feel comfortable claiming the senior citizens discount, right, for coffee? What do you do with that, right? Or never happens here, but when you get carded at a store for various beverages, right? So what do you do with that? Some people have a hard time growing up. What other things?
Your religion.
What?
Religion?
What? It can be any religion. Denomination specifically. We do wrap our identities around it, but what are you going to say? Wait. Health.
If you're a person that struggles with a certain illness, or you're able to do health.
Yep. Like I had a friend of mine who was so focused on working out and getting in shape and being healthy, and he went through a phase where he got injured and he couldn't work out anymore, and then he put on some weight and he got out of shape. It was hard for him because he was the guy who was always in shape. He finally realized that he felt like he had so much of his identity wrapped up in it that God sort of put him on the bench for a little while to sort of get him out of that. What else? What?
Socioeconomic.
Yeah. And we do this. This is what some people, we do the positive or negative, right? Like most things have a positive and a negative bent that we sometimes define ourselves, sometimes by our struggles or by our successes, that sometimes we don't know what to do when we succeed. Or some people define themselves by that's what some people label as a victim mentality, right? That I don't know who I am apart from how I've consistently failed or how I'm either a rich person or a poor person or whatever. Living within your means is a hard thing when you're socioeconomic things. You're used to nice things. One thing that I've never understood, but people do it, and I get it, but it always catches me off guard, is when people actually identify very profoundly in an unhealthy way with various sports teams. Like I love the Astros, right? But like my neighbor a couple years ago, the Green Bay Packers were his religion. And I'm not kidding. They were his religion, and tailgating at football games was his worship service. He would, think about it, what religions require outfits and uniforms. They require ceremony. They require rites. They require community. This was his church. He took it seriously. And it was the means whereby he organized his life, right? People do it with college. I love the fact, maybe I went to Baylor at a time when Baylor was terrible at football, and so I just don't really care. But like, I don't identify even with I love my university, I'm grateful for it, but my kids can go to whatever college they want as long as it's not A&M, right? So like, it's okay. I kid. I did almost go to A&M. But then I realized I already had a high school education, and then so I did so anyway. I just don't, but you realize this is your identity. If Texas A&M University stopped existing, you would, or UT or whatever, pick the college, pick the sports team. If it didn't exist anymore, you wouldn't know who you were. And you realize the random things we do with it, and when we see it in somebody else, it looks ridiculous. But when we do it, it's just natural. People do it with types of music, right? They get round up into a subculture. Oh, who knows? The whole purpose of all of this, Paul is trying to say, look, forget all that. Focus on your identity. Try to find ways to focus on your identity and see yourself primarily as a follower of Jesus Christ. One of the biggest examples of how different this is I've mentioned it before, and I keep saying it because it's so important. I'm guessing the average Christian in Katy, Texas would feel more comfortable spending time with an atheist from Katy, Texas than with a Christian from Nigeria. Not everybody, but I'm saying it's because culturally, and you realize, okay, if I'm more comfortable here than here, then it means that what I share with this person is deeper than what I share with this person. And what I share with this person is not my Christianity, it's my culture. It's being a Texan. That Texan is the lower part is the deeper part of me than my Christianity. And Paul's like, look, stop. You're not a Greek first. You're not a Jew first. You're not a man first or a woman first. You're not rich first or poor first. You are a follower of Jesus first. And that's what chapter 3 is about today. He gives a couple of different images. Chapter 3 of 1 Corinthians, he uses a couple of different ways of framing it. So starting in verse 1. I, brethren, couldn't speak to you as spiritual men, but as to men of flesh, as to infants in Christ. I gave you milk to drink, not solid food, for you were not able to receive it. Indeed, even now you're not able to receive it, for you are still fleshly. For since there is jealousy and strife among you, are you not fleshly, and are you not walking like mere men? For when one says, I am of Paul, another says, I am of Apollos, are you not mere men? He starts by saying, look, you are spiritually immature. He challenges them a little bit going, you need to grow up. There are certain things that are okay when a kid does it. You know, when my little kid doesn't know how to bathe himself, when Asa doesn't quite know how to feed himself without making a mess, it's cute. When a grown-up does it, you're immature. It's time to grow up. He's saying, you should know better than this by now. And he paints this distinction between fleshly and spiritual. One of the biggest misunderstandings in all of Paul's writings is to misunderstand what he's saying here. What he's not saying is, the things of this world you shouldn't enjoy. You should think about spiritual, ephemeral, eternal things. He's not saying the physical world is bad. Okay, God created this world. God created it, and he meant it to be enjoyed. He just never meant it to be the primary place you sought meaning. I think one of the reasons God created mountains was so that we could slide down them on skis, right? I think one of the reasons why God created lakes was so that you could fish in them. I think God made this world to be enjoyed. When Paul talks about the difference between flesh and spirit, he's almost saying every human, every man is a combination of animal and angel, right? You have a spiritual side, and you have a flesh, almost an animal side. And animals don't think about the future. Animals don't show compassion. Animals are focused on eating and satisfying their basic urges. They eat, they sleep, they reproduce. Right? Their God is their stomach. In fact, that's Greeks saw this too. Greeks said that God created animals, face down, looking at the earth, because that's their focus. And we can raise our head up, and we have our physical side that we have to take care of, but that's not the whole of what we are. When Paul says you are fleshly and not spiritual, he's not saying you're not supposed to enjoy good food and only think about philosophy. What you're saying is stop thinking that your fulfillment is going to come from that. You know, John talks about in 1 John, he goes, all that's in the world is passing away. And he calls he doesn't mean the things of the world, he means the attitudes directed towards finding fulfillment in the world. And he calls them the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life. The three primary ways we take the good of what God has filled this world with and how we corrupt it and use it for sin. The lust of the flesh, thinking that you will find fulfillment in pleasure. God created this world. God designed you for pleasure, right? But thinking that is the main way you will find fulfillment is by we do it by all the ways in which we try to feed the flesh with satisfying our appetite. Some people do it by eating. Some people do it by drinking. Some people do it by various physical pleasures. Some people do it by travel and trips and extreme experiences. Thinking that is what you were made for primarily and what is going to ultimately fill up that hole you have inside of you is just wrong. Lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, thinking that you will be fulfilled and find what's your purpose in gathering possessions. The lust of the eyes, look at all these shiny objects. If I could accrue them to myself, then I will know my life has meaning, right? And then the boastful pride of life, the idea that you will be a happier person, a more fulfilled person if you could elevate yourself, get a position. If I could elevate myself over other people and be seen as smarter or richer or more powerful or stronger or healthy, whatever your category is. Maybe you've heard a study where people talk about we make idols out of these things. But an idol is simply anything that you look at and say in your heart of hearts, if I had that thing, then I know my life would have meaning. Then I would know that I am secure and safe. That's what you might not have it yet, but it's something that you place your identity in seeking. And if it's in this world, it's going to be it's satisfying your animal side. It's part of your fleshly nature. The spiritual side doesn't mean philosophy and thinking. It doesn't include that. What it means is what Paul says in Galatians, the fruit of the Spirit. And fruit of the Spirit are very practical. It's love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. I told you my method for remembering that, right? And no one ever cares, and I keep telling people, and no one ever learns, but I'm going to tell you anyway because I'm determined, just in case you're the one. I could not remember how to remember there are 9 fruit of the Spirit. And I could never remember them until someone told me this, and I'm the only person that's ever helped, and I say it every time I talk about the fruit of the Spirit. There are 3 one-syllable, 3 two-syllable, 3 three-syllable words. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. I've never forgot them ever since I learned that. And no one goes, that is the hardest thing to remember. Who cares? Like, I don't even know, right? But if it helped you, take it. But that's what it means to be spiritual. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness. That's what it means to grow up into that. And those are the things, to be honest, those are the things we're seeking by trying to acquire wealth. And those are the things we're seeking when we try to gain position. We're looking for joy. We're looking for peace. We're looking to develop ourselves and it also becomes by not seeking those things and not by indulging our fleshly side, but by seeking a spiritual side. And so really the first wave of the first question about what it means to find your identity is ask yourself, what are you focused on? Are you focused on just satisfying your appetites? Or what are you focused on seeking with your life? Not what do you say? What do all of the actions you engage in on a daily basis reveal about what you're ultimately seeking in this world? So I can tell you one thing, but I guarantee you, A.W. Tozer has a list. I used to carry it in the front of, I switched Bibles, but I used to carry it in the front of my Bible. Then I wrote it in my notebook. I might have it in the front of this, but I think I switched notebooks too. Yeah, it was, he says, let me look at the things you spend your money on, the ways you spend your time, the things you laugh at. All of those things are an indicator of the things you ultimately value and which you're ultimately seeking. Let me follow you around for 24 hours, and I'll tell you what you're seeking. You don't have to tell me. And that's what Paul is saying. What are you focused on? He goes on from there, and then he says, what then is Apollos, and verse 5, what then is Apollos and what is Paul, servants through whom you believe, even as the Lord gave opportunity to each one. I planted, Apollos watered, but God was causing the growth. So that neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but God who causes the growth. Now he who plants and he who waters are one, but each one will receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are God's fellow workers, and you are God's field, God's building. So the next thing he says is who are you following? Who are you following? We all need to follow somebody. And the problem here is they had picked people to follow, and that was as far as they were going. It developed into factionalism. They weren't following Paul because Paul showed them how to follow God. They were following Paul because they thought Paul was it. It was a cult of personality. We need to realize that Christianity is an imitating and mentoring faith. Christianity doesn't first say, believe this. The first thing Jesus says to his disciples, the first thing disciples say to other disciples is follow me. Follow me. And Paul's going to say in 1 Corinthians 11:1, he's going to say, imitate me because I'm imitating Christ. He's going to say in Philippians, what you've seen, heard, and received in me, the things you've seen me do them. That's the primary message of Christianity. Who are you following? And he's saying the people you should be following not for their own sake, because they show you how to follow Jesus better. And it should be a multiplicity of people. One of my favorite passages in Philippians is in Philippians 3, starting I think it's verse 17. He goes, join in following my example and observe those who walk according to the pattern you have in us. For many I've told you about, and now tell you weeping, that they are enemies of the cross of Christ, whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, who set their mind on earthly things, who glory in their shame. You know, he's saying, follow my example, but don't just follow me. Follow me because I'm following Christ, and pick out some other people who are also following Christ. Because none of us are perfect, and so if I happen to go off the rails, you don't want to follow me. It's not like lemmings, right? Remember, by the way, the myth of lemmings was created by Disney. Did you know the idea of lemmings going off a cliff and drowning? It's like a documentary that came out in like the 50s or 60s. Totally fraud. Not actually true. Go do your research. It's pretty fascinating. But the idea that lemmings just follow each other off the cliff and they all drown even though they don't know. Or the better example is like in the 80s, the Air Force flying, the Blue Angels are in the Navy, the Air Force has the Thunderbirds, the stunt flying team. They take their cues not by their radar, but by they follow the guy next to them. And the lead guy had a malfunction in something and he crashed. And guess what happened to all the other ones? Boom, 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 boom. They all crashed. It's a staggering thing. If you are only taking your cue off of one person, guess what? That person's not perfect, and if they go off the rails, you're gonna follow too. The idea of a multiplicity of voices, a multiplicity of examples, and realize ultimately these are all useful guides to help you ultimately following God. He goes, look, I planted the seed, Apollos watered, we all did meaningful, we had different jobs, but it was the same purpose, all doing with the job that God called us to do. That's why Paul is consistently against factionalism, right? You can have a favorite preacher as long as it's me, and but you should have others that you like slightly less, but roughly the same, right? Like I should always be your favorite, but no, you should have a multiplicity of voices so that, heaven forbid, I should occasionally be wrong. It does occasionally happen. One time I was wrong because I thought I was wrong, but I wasn't, and so it turns out I was right, but I was wrong because I thought I was wrong. But you should have a multiplicity of voices. No, because if you only have one person you're focused on, that's how you become. That's what a cult is, right? It's a cult of personality. And that's what he was worried about happening. He goes, don't follow me, follow God. If I help you follow God, follow me too. But realize that I'm nothing. I'm nothing, Apollos is nothing, we're all just doing our job. He's going to develop it later to say, every one of us has a role to play in the kingdom of God, and we all need to be worthy of an example to somebody. So, following. I guarantee you follow somebody. It might be a person you don't even know. I guarantee you there is somebody that you look at and say, boy, if I might not ever get there, but boy, if I could ever be that person, man, that'd be so good. Who do you want to be like? I remember some good advice that someone gave me at college that I pass on to other people. At college, find professors that you want to be like and go take their classes. Doesn't matter what they're teaching, just take their classes. Be near, be close to. C.S. Lewis called Christianity a good infection. You get it by being near the people who have it. Not by learning the things they know primarily, but by being close to them, living it out in every dimension of their life. That's why Jesus said, abide in me and I in you, and you'll bear much fruit. Get close to the source and it'll flow into you. And we get to be extensions of that. That's why he tells the woman at the well, he goes, come to me and drink. I'll give you living water that will be welling up inside of you to eternal life. And he says the water that flows from Jesus into you will fill you up and flow out into the world. So find people from whom the life of God is, the living water of God is flowing out of them because it's already filling them up. So I do have, in the quote of this one, a problem. It's a quote that many pastors struggle with and Bible teachers. Dallas Willard was writing a book where he's trying to encourage pastors to depend more on God and not their own skill. He goes, to trust their training and to pursue training and learning and study, but ultimately realize that it's God at work and not them, and they're not the source. He goes, avoid being just another clever, learned scribe trying to nourish the souls of my hearers out of the contents of my own brain. Right? That's an example of pouring out to other people, me, not God. Right? The idea is fill yourself up full of God and let what God fills you up with flow off into the world. So, there you go. Who are you following? He changes the image right there at the end of verse 9. He goes, you are God's field, God's building. See, now we have a building metaphor. He shifts. According to the grace of God which was given to me, like a wise master builder, I laid a foundation. Another man is building on it. But each man must be careful how he builds on it. For no one can lay a foundation other than that which is laid, which is Christ Jesus. Now, if any man builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, or straw, each man's work will become evident, for the day will show it, because it is to be revealed with fire, and the fire itself will test the quality of each man's work. If any man's work which he has built on it remains, he will receive a reward. If any man's work is burned up, he will suffer loss, but he himself will be saved, yet as though through fire. The next thing he goes, so what are you focusing? What are you following? What's your foundation? What foundation are you building your life on? Right? So many times we claim we are building the foundation, our life on the foundation of Jesus Christ. The truth is we're not. We have the building a little bit over the Jesus as a foundation, but we have a foot over in financial security. We have a foot over in our culture, our social network, a foot over in. And we realize, I don't run to this for safety and security. Like there was at a house I owned in California, we had this secondary slab out back, and it was falling apart. It was not a great slab. I don't know what it was there before, if it was the first house that was on the property. It was not very big, and it wasn't good to build anything on except for putting like an old shed on. And that's what I had. I didn't keep much in the shed because when it rained, which is very rare, even the water would come up to the foundation. I didn't entrust much to it because the foundation wasn't good. I lived someplace else. Many of us take our lives and we say that Jesus Christ is our foundation, but the truth is it's that ramshackle foundation out back that we haven't built on in a while. I think what he's asking us is, what is the thing that you run to for safety and security? When the storm, people always think that the fire here is the fires of hell. I kind of think this is what, like Jesus said about building your house upon the rock versus the house on the sand. The rain's coming, the storms blow against it and burst against that house. I think he's talking about the storms of life, right? When things hit you hard in life, when you don't know what to do and where to go, where do you run for security? Where do you run? Like we all of us run home to mama, right? Well, who's mama, really? Like where do you run when, like we call it comfort food, right? We go eat the foods that give us a little bit of peace. We go watch the movies. We go put our favorite sweatshirt on. You know, a couple years ago when I was flying to Africa, it was the longest flight I've ever taken in my life, or in a while, and the longest I've ever been away from my family. It was a challenging thing for me. Many of you know that time in my life when I was really, it was a challenge, but it was a good challenge. But man, when I got on that plane, I was wearing my favorite shoes and my favorite socks and my favorite jeans and my favorite t-shirt and my favorite sweater because I was wrapping myself in the things that gave me comfort. What are those things you run to to give you comfort and give you peace when things are bad. Right? What are those things that you invest in? What you invest in is ultimately the foundation you're building upon. Right? I have this thing already. The thing I'm going to pour more money into is what I think is going to last for a while. What is your foundation? What are you investing in? What are you building on? And will it hold up? I think I remember a song about on Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground is sinking sand. So many times we don't realize that until we end up in a dire predicament and that's all we have left. I always wondered why, how come we never hear about like super wealthy, super duper people getting saved? How come it's always people who have no place else to turn? Because that's the people who finally realize they need it. It's when you have the comfort and security of this world, it's very hard to perceive your own need. So yeah, what is your foundation? Verse 10. Oh, no, we had verse 10. Okay. And then verse, where do you go? Verse 16. Do you not know that you are a temple of God and that a Spirit of God dwells in you? If any man destroys the temple of God, God will destroy him. For the temple of God is holy, and that is what you are. Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you thinks he is wise in this age, he must become foolish, so that he may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness before God. For it is written, He is the one who catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, the Lord knows the reasoning of the wise, that they are useless. Basically, he's saying smart people, successful people, wealthy people have lots of places to hide. And they think that they're smart, but they're actually deceiving themselves. So then let no one boast in men, for all things belong to you, whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas or the world or life or death or things present or things to come, all things belong to you, and you belong to Christ, and Christ belongs to God. What on earth does this mean? The best way to understand it is to go backwards. Okay, read it from the back. He's trying to ask, who do you belong to? Ultimately, he's trying to give them security. You don't have to belong to a specific school or sect. You don't have to belong to a specific dogma or church. You don't have to belong to a specific party or whatever to gain access to whatever truth. You belong to Christ. And because Christ belongs to God, you also belong to God. Where do you belong? I couldn't come up with an F one for that one. I had focus, foundation, following. Couldn't come up with an F for that one. Think of one. Who do you belong to? Where do you feel like you belong? Like I'll be honest, there are times when I lived in Pennsylvania for a while and I realized I feel like I belong in Texas. Like I get claustrophobic. I get this part when I go like to the real South, the old South, the pine trees. I even get it when I go behind the pine curtain in East Texas, right? It feels like I get claustrophobic with all those trees. I need wide open spaces. I can't see the sky. I feel like I belong here. There's a sense of belonging. You know what's crazy? I say the same thing about Kingsland. Like, this is a church. When I come here, no matter what conflict, no matter whatever, I feel like I belong. These are my people. Like, this is where I belong. Might not be perfect, but it's home. He's trying to say, who primarily do you feel like you belong to and belong with? I've had people tell me, like, even with this church, they've had conflict because conflict happens among family, and like, we're not going to stay at Kingston because of blah, 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 blah. I get that. Do what you feel like you need to do. And they'll go off to some other church, be back in a couple of months, I'm like, just felt like home. I missed home. I want to go home. You fight with your family, and that's okay. Come on home. It's not perfect, but it's a place you feel like you belong. He's trying to say, the only place you are ever going to feel like you truly belong is in the place that fits under that rubric. You belong to God, and you belong to Christ. Now, who else belongs to Christ? Because you belong with them. And to learn, and the whole rest of the book is him trying to sort that out, to help people feel comfortable primarily being with each other. Like, I belong to my family. My wife belongs to me, I belong to her. We belong with each other. It's not always clean, it's not always messy, it's not always quiet, but we belong together. And he's trying to say, this is where you belong. Don't feel, sometimes I feel like the church, most people have a hard time with church they always, feels like a junior high dance. No one would talk to me. I went there and no one would talk to me. I remember, well, did you talk to anybody else? No, but they wouldn't talk to me either. Okay. I remember one day, it wasn't at this church, a different church, but like I remember this dysfunctional class. I had lunch with multiple people from the same class. No one will talk to me. I just feel like no one talks. This class is so, like, all y'all been told, I never did this. I should have gotten, I'm going to go into the same room. All y'all think all y'all being mean to each other, right? All y'all think you're excluded from some mystery. No, y'all are just being, no, yeah, just, look, just, yeah, there's a middle school dance. No one will talk to you, but you won't talk to anybody else either. So who do you belong to? Who do you see yourself as belonging to? We all belong at various stages, places of comfort, places of security, places of identity. And this whole thing is he's trying to get you to realize this is the place, the Church of Christ, where you belong, where you're supposed to belong, and to try and find your primary identity here. Let's pray. Father, show us. Show us the ways in which we're too smart for our own good or too fleshly for our own good and are still focused on things that we shouldn't, looking for fulfillment in all of those dead ends that the world tries to attract us with. Father, draw our attention to what we're focused on, but more importantly, draw our attention away from that and grow us up into spiritual maturity. Help us to set our mind on things above and to focus on pursuing and growing. May the Spirit grow in us, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, all of the fruit of the Spirit. Father, help us to see who we're following. Help us to be very clear about it. And Father, give us good examples. We sometimes don't have good examples. Show us the great cloud of witnesses that's surrounding us so that we can run with endurance the race that's set before us. Father, show us what we're building on our foundation. Show us which foundation we're building on. If it's not on Christ, help us to learn to build on that foundation, knowing that that's what's going to carry us through. Help us to know we belong. Help us to realize all those other places we run to for belonging and identity, and help us to feel at home with your people. Pray this all in the name of Jesus. Amen. All right. Question and answer time. If you need to get your kids, that's fine, but like question and answer time. What you got? Anything? You should know this is one of my favorite times. And so like, it doesn't have to be about this. If you have some random question you've been waiting all week to ask, this is your time. Okay, Stump the Guesser is one of my favorite. Like if you have some random Bible question, I'm good with that too.
When did you start at HBU?
When 2010. So that was an easy one. So
Okay.
yeah, there you go. I moved to Houston. Moved to Houston in 2010. That's when I took the job. So before that I was at Baylor, Sikkim Bears. I taught Robert Griffin III. So Heisman Trophy winner. I always tell my students, I taught a Heisman Trophy winner. What have you done for me? So,
What city in California were you
I was in the East Bay of California. So I was in Castro Valley was the church I was in, was the city I was in, which is between Oakland and Hayward. So what part are you from, California?
Yeah.
What part? What?
in? LA.
LA. Okay, yeah, different worlds, right? So today felt like a California day, right? Like no cloud. It was a day to watch baseball outside, right? Like no clouds in the sky, just absolutely beautiful. So that's what I wanted to do more than anything. So question?
Verse 17. If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him. I feel like I've heard this verse used in the incorrect context before, because he's talking about the church.
Well,
Not just, I mean, both, but in
Yeah.
this context, it's the body.
you know, let's see.
The church.
Let's see. I can check the Greek here. So, do you not know that you are a temple of God? So, let's see if it's plural. If it's you and the individual, it'll be singular. One of the hard parts about English, not Texas English, this is where it is you can be, you and y'all, right? So, as other places have them too, like, you know what they say in Philadelphia? Youans, or yins. I was going to say, look, you is one person, y'all is 2 to 4, 5 or more is all y'all. Right? So, okay, Greek. Let's see, Greek, is that 16, 3:16? Don't you know that you, plural, are the temple of God, and the Spirit of God dwells in you, plural? So if someone destroys the temple of God, I think what he means is we should feel a primary loyalty to the church. Like, here's something you can't convince people of. Like, you go to the ancient world and you look at sieges are terrible ways when a city is a walled city. Sieges are a terrible way to get at it. To camp out until the people give up. And so, how did you want one of those cough drops? I got some. So some nice person gave them to me. So gave me her own cough. Oh my goodness. And so was the easiest way to get inside of a walled city before catapults and aircraft? Well, you get somebody inside the walls to betray the city to the enemy. Why would they do that? Because of some internal spat. They're fighting amongst themselves, and they would rather win and betray themselves. And it happens every single time. An enemy will use a traitor, but will never like a traitor. Yes, we will use you to get inside the city. We're not going to make you king in your stead. We're going to take everything. This happens so much with Christianity. We don't feel a primary loyalty to the household of God. I'm not saying we should hate people outside. What I mean is, I will defend other believers even if I don't agree with their theology, because when they're attacked, like I'll watch. I remember one time a friend of mine who was a fellow believer shared with me some secular comic who was making fun of some church that I happened to disagree with their theology fundamentally. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to watch this. And the reason why is not because I don't disagree with that guy, but because you are operating from the false assumption that once this guy takes him down, he's done. You need to realize that this guy doesn't believe the same as you. And then once this guy takes him down, he's coming for you. He thinks your faith is just as laughable as that guy's faith. And you are fighting with this other believer within the walls of theology. And that guy's attacking from the outside, and you're betraying the household of God. And so to learn to defend it, right? Yes, we can have internal squabbles. I can disagree with you. But my primary commitment is to people who share my faith, not sort of an antagonistic military way, but realize that it's a Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth kind of thing. That's what I think that means. But other questions, comments? That was a long way home, but it's a good picture, right? How many times do we do that? We betray another brother or sister in Christ because they disagree with us, and we think some aspect of their theology or faith or belief is laughable. And we laugh at them with somebody who thinks our faith would be laughable if they knew it completely. That once they're done making fun of them, they're going to make fun of us. And they will, and they do. So, other questions? One more, come on. Good one. What?
How do you sign on to these classes through the bridge?
It's a good question. So, I don't even know. So, we go through I don't know. I know. I think if you click on through the main website, so kingsland.org, and then you click on Wednesday night, and then you click on class, and you click on this, it'll take you through a series like that. And if not, you can search. I don't know. I don't know. What? Events. And if not, I promise to do that. I told you I would do this for you. And if you need somebody, if you don't want to go through the hassle, you want me to sign you up, I'll have a list up here. You can just give me your name, and I will go do it. We'll find somebody who knows how to do it tomorrow morning, because I know I can add people to the group. All right? Other questions? Yes?
What was your favorite course to teach?
My favorite course to teach was a course on classical mythology. And the reason why was because it was a course on worldview creation. See, literature, the stories that people tell, they might not be true, but cultures tell them because it gives their life meaning, helps them answer the big questions. Well, what are the big questions? And so what I would do is I would say, look, everyone has a worldview. Everybody has answers to the 5 big questions or the questions of origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. That you have beliefs about God, about man, about what the purpose of life is, where this is all going. And now what do the stories you tell and run back to reveal about what you actually believe? And so I'd study Greek mythology, but in the process help people realize and look at. You can look at any culture and figure out what it believes just by studying the stories they tell. It's fascinating. And so I love teaching mythology to teach that and help. And one of the reasons I know the Bible isn't mythology in that sense. It is a meaningful story that we tell that gives life meaning, but it doesn't read like myth as far as a made-up story. So I love that course. I also like medical terminology. I told you I love if this whole pastor thing doesn't work out, I'm gonna just go open up a booth down in the medical center translating people's diagnoses. So give me a medical term and I can tell you what it means. Pretty fascinating skill. Have I showed you this before? What? Okay. So this is the big one. Okay, this is the one that like be amazed. Okay, this is the longest word in the English language. Okay, pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. And you look at that and you go, that is an incredibly long word. But I even heard some of you doing it. You see parts of that word that you know. All medical terminology, everything the doctors ever tell you is just words like this. Okay, pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. So lung, really small looking sand from volcanoes, dirt condition. So yeah, it is. So it's a lung condition caused by the inhalation of particulate matter, specifically really fine silica ejected from volcanoes. Okay, pneumoconiosis in general is just dirt in your lungs, which is coal miner's lung. There are three groups of people that get coal miner's lung. Coal miners used to be birthday clowns. Really sad because the talcum blow up balloons and the talcum powder would go into their lungs. Okay, cause you pneumoconiosis. Third, people who worked at microwave popcorn factories. Because the reason why they tell you to not open microwave popcorn facing you is not just the steam. It's that within the bag, the butter and salt have been aerosolized. And when you point it towards your face, you're not just breathing in steam, but you're breathing in particulate matter, and you can develop pneumoconiosis. So anyway, that's what I love doing that because it's just a fun parlor trick. Give me any medical term, I could probably do this. Like my neighbor was an anesthesiologist, and she's like, oh yeah, what is this word? She sits in all these crazy surgeries. I just sat in on this surgery. What do you think this means? But you can't figure this out. I'm like, this is easy. So dacryocysto-rhinostomy. So daiquiri is a beverage that they make on the islands. No, it means tear. Cysto means sac or bladder. Rhino means nose. Stomy means opening. So the creation of an opening between your tear sac and your nose. So there you go. You don't got a medical term you want to give me? I love doing this. Endoscopic retrograde cholangiopancreatography. It's just a fun. All right. What? I learned it when I was sitting. I knew Greek, and my doctor one time. I took taking this medicine, and I was like, Doc, when I take this medicine, it just gives me a rapid heart rate. He was like, it's just tachycardia. Tachya means fast, cardia means heart. I said, I have a fast heart condition. He said, oh, don't worry, that's just a fast heart condition. Like you, or one last one, I'll let you go. Okay. A friend of mine went to the doctor. She had a rash around her mouth. She goes, Doc, the skin around my mouth is inflamed. He goes, oh, that's okay. That's just perioral dermatitis. Perioral, around your mouth, dermatitis, inflammation of your skin. She walked in and said, the skin around my mouth is inflamed. Oh, that's okay. You just have around the mouth skin inflammation. Literally. It's crazy. Doctors aren't scientists. They're mechanics, okay? They don't know why. Like a friend of mine who's a dermatologist, he said, look, I know within 30 seconds how I'm going to treat whatever they have. I just have to make them feel like they've been doctored, so I sit and talk to them for a while. And dermatology is crazy. He goes, you mean boil it down to? Except for the extreme stuff. Most people, when you walk into a dermatologist, he goes, let me boil it down for you. If it's wet, dry it. If it's dry, wet it. That's all he does. Got this rash. Is it dry? Wet it. like here's something to moisturize. Is it wet? Dry it. Like that's all he does. All right. If you have some medical disease you want to tell me about it, I'll translate it for you. If not, any questions, comments, criticisms, rebuttals, revisions, hilarious rejoinders? Well, get on up out of here. Yeah. Okay, it's not a biblical question. Okay, what's up?
You said your mother grew up in Jackson.
Uh-huh.
Well, all my relatives,
What?
all of my relatives
Really?
down there, I lived in Memphis all my life.
Okay, yeah.
But I just wondered, did you go to grandparents down there?
So my parents, so my mom was born in Memphis. My grandpa was technically from a little small town in northeastern Mississippi, outside Eupora. So, and then he went to pastor a church just across the border of Arkansas. In a little bitty town, Lake City, and my grandma's from LaPierre, Arkansas. It's a little farming town on the other side. So my mom was born in Memphis because they drove her into the hospital. And so we had family in Drew. And so, but I never went back there that much because my parents met in Washington State.
As far away as you can get. I'm going to Jackson.
Really?
In 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Aunt who's more like a cousin.
Yeah.
She's on hospice.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And so my cousin called me last night. She said, why don't you just come now? Because when we have some death, we just have a little service, but she'll know you and all that.
So my grandpa went to Mississippi College, which is right there, right?
At Clinton.
Yeah. And my uncle was a doctor for years in Hazelhurst, which is south.
We got our minister of music from Hazel. Robert Burton, he was in Southwest
Okay.
He came from Hazelhurst to Memphis.
Really? I did not know
And
that.
that was
How wonderful. Well, so are you driving, flying?
fine.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, travel safe. I wish it was better circumstances, but
Yeah, well, it
Oh, I know
would
you.
be nice.
yeah, well, good.
She and I were like, and my sister and I,
Really?
when her brother died, he, a small town, Quitman, Mississippi.
Equipment?
Two of my parents were from
Really?
Quitman.
There's a. Remember, I knew it because there's equipment in Texas too. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But,
So.
anyway, my uncle died, and I went to the funeral, and we were viewing. And all these people from her background would say, Mary, you haven't changed a bit.
Oh my goodness.
That's
That's where over there. So how wonderful.
Yeah, but Keith Grayson, you was before your time, but he was a deacon here for 7 years, a young fella. He was my first cousin, but he was the age of my children. And he
I know it.
But my parents, when they on their honeymoon, took the train, the Rebel train went to Memphis from their area.
Yeah.
On their honeymoon to start a new life in Memphis. So my dad wanted to be in college for his unborn children. He wanted a college education so badly, and it was just such a poor college down there.
Yeah, very. Yeah.
And just no advantages, and so they planned ahead. They
went there.
settled in Memphis.
That's so awesome. That's so
And
wonderful.
did you know the new Supreme Court
That.
got her undergraduate in Memphis?
Really?
Rhodes College. It used to
Yeah, I know Rhodes College. Yeah.
See, they don't mention that much. One commentator did on
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the prestige that Notre Dame.
Yeah, did she go to law school in Notre Dame or? Okay.
Yeah, and now
Yeah.
she teaches it.
That is
And
so-
her undergraduate was used to be Southwestern.
Yeah, but now, remember Rhodes. Yeah, I heard of my Rhodes.
It was a Presbyterian college
Yeah,
when I was
there you go. Hey.
small world.
Oh, yeah.
I was just gonna tell you that, I got diagnosed with, dermatitis herpetiformis.
Out of form, so.
Herpetiformis.
Yeah, so looking like a snake.
Well, no, it was funny because I'd had this rash on my knees and elbows for years, and, the dermatologist had given me a spray, right? I finally go to the doctor, go back, and he has a young woman right out of medical school, and she identified it, and it's for the gluten allergy. And so they gave me some medicine, and, I couldn't believe it, and that's kept it on. I go to the pharmacist, and there's restrictions on it.
inside of it. Like I have this app called Pillow.
Oh, that.
I've had it for a while.
But it wasn't natively supported. It was just.
No, it
third-party
was,
apps.
yeah, it didn't do it inside of it. So, hey there, what's up, Lizzie?